Alright, hey y'all. I'm back again with my friend Finn. It's been like 2.5 years since we last made a video together, literally almost to the date. It was like
Before COVID.
March 2019, we made a video about flying. Mostly. Oh, and changing passports, I think we talked about too.
Yes.
Anyway, today we're here to talk about top surgery because Finn had his top surgery like
2.5 months ago.
At the same surgeon as I did, so we thought it would be kind of fun to compare our experiences because mine was almost 4 years ago. So a lot has changed. He had to deal with COVID and all those kind of things.
Insurance.
So, and
insurance
was different, and yeah, so you've had a whole different experience. So I thought it would be fun to talk about your experience going through him and why we both love him, and then we'll do a scar reveal at the end for both of us. So
yeah.
Stay tuned. So I guess we could start with the consultation and scheduling process. So I know for me, I believe I called them like in the beginning of June, and I think at that point I had to make sure I had my letter already. She said make sure you have a letter, and I already had a letter.
Yeah, a letter from a therapist.
Yeah, I had been planning on it for a while, so I had my letter already. She said make sure you have a letter, and like bring your insurance information, and you'll be good to go. And I think I was able to schedule like a consult in person 2 weeks later. So that was pretty quick. I was expecting to have to wait longer. So it was a pretty quick turnaround as far as when I called to just be like, hey, I want to have surgery with you guys. What do I do? To when I actually got to meet with him. Mm-hmm. So I met with him in person, and he did the whole rundown, looked at my chest, took pictures, all that kind of stuff, and sent me on my merry way. But for you, didn't you do virtual consults?
Yeah.
So what was it like when from the time you called them to the time you actually got to meet with them?
So I had to get a therapist letter just like you did, and that probably took in itself like another month or so just because that was also virtual and everything. I've seen therapists that
when
like
did you
that.
start the process? I forget. Last summer?
I started it last April.
Last April.
Yeah, I called them about it and they were like, you need to have a therapist letter. So I found a therapist. I did all of that for June. July I was all set, and then got the consultation around like August, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So but you had a virtual consult.
I had
COVID.
And so I had to
That's different.
I had to have like pictures taken of me, have that sent over, so that way he could analyze it while we were on the phone and tell me all about that. And he had like a virtual like clipboard-ish thing that was like, and here's what this would look like if we were to do this. It's just like as a drawing.
He did that
to
me in person. He drew out each kind.
Yeah. So
surgery option you could have.
So it sounds like it was very similar. It was just
interesting.
It's
so interesting to me to hear how he did the virtual consult.
Yeah.
Versus because I know.
I mean, we have the technology. It's great.
Right.
Like,
that saves you fucking a bunch of hours driving down to Boston and back.
Yeah, because it was like a 2-ish hour drive depending on the traffic.
Yeah.
And that not having to do that an extra 8 times saved time.
Right.
And I wasn't the one driving because I've got PTSD driving, so I have other people driving me.
So that was good for you.
Keeps
to
that
have
from happening.
The virtual ability to. That was just easier for you.
Yes.
So from the time of your consult to when you scheduled surgery, how long was it?
A lot of it was insurance problems.
Yep.
Yeah, I had a lot of problems with my insurance, and around the time that I was starting to look at it was around the time that my job was changing their insurance. So I was guaranteed a certain amount was going to be paid by this insurance, and then turned around and said, well, the new insurance is now saying this. And then I had the problem where I was 25 at the time, and my mom claimed me and I didn't know that. So I had 2 insurances, and then I had to kind of say, hey mom, don't put me back on. And then she accidentally renewed it because she didn't think about it. So I had to put all of this processing in for her, saying like, stop that.
Right. This is not my insurance. This is my insurance over here.
Yep. Yeah. So that was from like August, September-ish time, approximately. All of that stuff approved, then having to be fought and then reapproved took until like about February.
Yep. So like 5 months.
Yep.
And then from there you were just on a wait list.
I was on a wait list, but they knew that I was like trying to get in as soon as possible. So they were like, well, you've got all of the stuff, you're just kind of waiting for the final aspects of it. So like they tried to get me in as soon as possible. It was like, do you want to come in at the end of June, or do you want to come in at August? Because he was going to take a month off for vacation. So I was like, please, before
vacation,
before
June.
that, please.
So.
Yep.
And your insurance, how much did they cover it?
They ended up covering. They said that they were going to. The first one said that they were going to cover about. I was going to have to pay about $7,000. This one, it was $7,200 or something.
Yeah.
This one was about 6,500 that I was supposed to have to cover myself.
Yeah.
So
Do you know what the total cost was for surgery for you?
I think it was supposed to be around 13,000
So it's gone up.
approximately. Yeah. There were some aspects of it. Sure, like everything was online, virtual, but then like the cost for the hospital, the procedures, the cleaning
Did
of everything.
you
like
have
that.
the surgery at their office?
I had it.
Or did you have it
at the hospital?
At the hospital.
Yep.
Okay, so that
the
might be a difference.
women's hospital.
Oh, okay, yeah, Brigham.
Mhm.
Brigham. Yeah. So when I had mine, I had it in the office at their OR, so
That's
that might
very
have changed
strange.
price. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I know I was given the option. I don't know if you were given the option, so that's different.
They could
I was
have done that
given
for like the size
that
of
might
the office.
honestly that might have been because I was paying out of pocket that they might have given me the choice because it was going to be more expensive if I went to the hospital because they're like, oh, you're going to have to pay like the anesthesia and stuff like that if you go to the hospital.
Yep.
So that might be the difference in price right there. Because for me, my insurance at the time, I was on my dad's plan because I was 23.
Sounds about right.
23. Was I 23? How
Yeah,
old was I 4 years ago? Yeah, I was 23. I was 23 at the time.
Couldn't tell
So I
you
was
how
still
old I
on my
was.
dad's insurance. And they wouldn't cover any of it. So I signed a paper saying I'm not using insurance. And then my total was like 9,800.
I helped you with a lot of that.
Yeah. And I had to GoFundMe and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, so I wonder if the difference in price, well,
Was the
obviously,
hospital.
also the hospital, but also maybe like just people change their prices in 4 years. The time prices change.
I'm sure even with any sort of insurance, they would have covered at least like a little bit.
Right, and the thing is, a lot of times, like your insurance paid for like the procedure, but they're not paying for like the cosmetic fee of like having him put it back in a nice way. You know,
Yeah.
like the masculinization of the chest they don't pay for, and like the fee to the doctor directly they won't pay for.
Yep.
So, but you paid 6,500.
Approximately. Yep.
Approximately.
And then they came back around asking for another couple $1,000 because they said something didn't process correctly in insurance. So I ended up sinking in another $2,000 on top of it, and then got another check saying that like
Oh, you overpaid.
I overpaid, and that insurance actually got charged in a different way. So Dr. Bartlett's office was really good about calling and saying like, hey, by the way,
You're getting some money back.
you're getting this money back. So
Still.
I technically ended up paying about 5,500 because I paid
Got
the
the
extra
money
2,000 and got the 3,000 back. So
Nice.
the math was a strange thing, but
Nice.
yeah, all in all, it was. I have a decent enough job that has decent enough insurance, which is why mine was as good as it is. But it's
Right.
not always like that. Like I think mine was probably some of the best that I could have gotten for that, especially for what I could pay and what I could afford.
Nice. Now, what was your impression of him as like a surgeon?
It
You've met with him once in person for the day of surgery?
The
And
like
once
literally
virtually?
no, like it was once virtually and then an hour before he was going to give me surgery, if that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he was very nice. He was very knowledgeable in what he was doing for all of that.
Totally.
Like in the virtual stuff, he was very good about like, here's all of this, here's all of this information, here's all of it displayed. And then when I'd like ask questions of like, I've got friends that did this was their situation, what are your thoughts on this? He had an answer immediately. Like
Wow.
he knew what he was talking about and like how he could recommend this and like, yeah, he could do this, but you'd want this because overall in the future it would heal better this way, or there's less complications with this happening. He just knew. He was like, yeah, with what you are, this is the best procedure, and because I am not a doctor or certified in any way, it's like, I trust you because that's his
Right.
job, it's
'Cause
not
you were
mine.
probably like right on the borderline between keyhole and double incision,
Yes.
right? 'Cause you're
Yeah,
smaller.
I was an A cup around
Did he
there.
say that
so
you could go either way, or
He
did he
said
recommend one or the other?
I could potentially go both ways, but if I did the keyhole one, with the amount of skin that could have been hanging down, it could have made just like a pocket sag, which could have been, first of all, you would see it.
Right.
Second of all, it could have some complications, so like just
So it was just like,
not even bother. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he told me the same thing. He said I was like, I could go either way. I was definitely more towards double incision, but he's like, you could do keyhole if you really want to.
Yeah.
He's like, but again, you risk the sagging and you know the elasticity of your skin. And I was like, I was going into it thinking my only option was double incision,
Yeah.
so I was already totally fine with that. Like I don't care.
I
I just want them off of me. Like I don't
Yeah.
care about
Yeah.
the scars, you know.
I knew that there was more than one, which is why I was like, so what are your thoughts on this? And he is immediately like, I mean, you could, but I wouldn't because
Yeah, he
of this. And
definitely.
it's like,
I think
okay.
he prefers double incision because it just has better
results.
We said that exactly the same.
I think it might also potentially be easier because you're not sitting there blindly like picking through.
Right.
You have it open. You can see what's being
Right,
extracted.
right. It's probably an easier technique, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm not a doctor,
loved
I don't
him.
know.
I loved him. He's so
Yeah.
knowledgeable. He gives you so much information right off the bat. Like
Yeah.
explains both procedures to you, tells you risks, complications of each one, like lays it all out. Like this is everything that's gonna happen.
It was very strange having the consultation online
Yeah.
and then being like that I meet him a few minutes before. I'm a
Right, he
little
comes
bit
in to
drugged
draw
up.
a grid on you.
And, like,
you know,
I met him
and you're
and I
just
was-
sitting there and you're like, okay.
Well, I was very drugged up at the time because I had mentioned that I have really bad anxiety, and we
sure,
did
yeah.
almost crash a couple of times because the highways were really bad. So my PTSD was really high, and I'm like
Oh my god.
stressing out. So they're like, you'll be okay, and they gave me a cocktail of drugs beforehand, so I was very, very out of it.
Oh my god.
And then he's like, could you take off your robe? And I'm like, okay. And then he started drawing on me, and like my first thought was, he's a lot smaller than I thought that he
totally.
was. Like,
When I looked at his picture online before I
Yeah.
met him, I thought he was gonna be so much taller. But he's
Yeah.
like short and skinny and small.
yeah, he's like
Totally.
our height,
Yes,
approximately.
yeah,
It
I
was very
totally-
strange. It was like, all right, I'm not judging. It was just very much like drug brain.
Right, you're like,
small.
whoa, you're smaller than
Yeah.
I thought the same thing though.
Yeah.
I thought he was gonna be taller and just like bigger. I don't know, because his
Yeah.
picture. I think the picture on his website is older, but
Possibly.
I totally thought he was gonna be taller too. So I was like thrown when he was
Yeah.
so short. I was like,
Yeah.
wait, what? You're not what I thought was gonna walk in this room.
So it was
But-
very interesting.
So how was like the healing process for you?
It was miserable. So what happens for when you get top surgery is they like give like a foam underneath to be able to hold everything together.
Squish you and wrap, and you're
And then
wearing
they-
this tight thing.
They give you like a binder that's almost like a corset that zips up, and then you like cinch it together, and then
Yeah.
it has like the shoulder thing to make sure that you can adjust it if you
Yeah,
needed to.
yeah.
But once they basically had it set, they were like, "That's what
Right,
it
don't
has to be."
touch it, yeah.
And it has to be like that for an entire week. And mine was June 23rd, so that entire week was like 98, 99,
Oh my God.
100
I'm so
ish.
glad I had my surgery
Yeah.
in November.
Yeah,
So glad.
I had no AC where I was staying,
Oh
so
my
I was like
God.
sweating, and I couldn't
That's
shower. You can't
miserable.
shower for a week until
God.
they
That's
remove all the stuff.
miserable.
Yeah, so I'm sitting there. The person that was caring for me, so I was staying at my sister's, and they have a friend that came over. She has some household situations that's going on, so she stayed, and she ended up taking care of me more because my sister and my brother-in-law had to work, so they couldn't really be there for me
Right, right,
consistently. So she wasn't working.
She
so
was
she
your
was
person.
Yeah, she was the constant caretaker. She would sit there changing the bowl of water that was right behind the fan that was covered in ice,
my
like,
gosh.
and then she like would take a towel and dab at my skin,
my
so that way I was getting the airflow.
Right. Oh my God.
I took my cat with me because my cat hasn't been away from a person for so long. So I was like, I don't want him to have the anxiety and destroy everything. So he came with me, and he's dying too because he's long hair. So
God.
we're both miserable.
That sounds just so awful. And
it
it's
was-
already
it was
like
really
so
bad.
uncomfortable in
Yeah.
the first place. It's like so tight.
Yeah.
And for me, like I got really like rubbed raw, like right here.
Right at the armpit.
'Cause here's my scar.
specifically.
I got right under where the thing was. It's so tight. It was
Mhm.
like rubbing me raw.
Yeah.
That was the worst pain I had though.
It was like that was the only thing that was painful about the whole thing. Like,
right.
and
It just feels like you got punched. Like I felt like someone punched me really hard.
I
in the
didn't even
chest.
feel that.
Really?
I felt like I had. So I
It just
got.
felt like someone went bam, and I was
I don't
like,
even-
I'm so sensitive.
So I have like bits of asthma at times,
Mm-hmm.
or I at least have an inhaler for when I feel like I struggle to breathe a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I might just have really bad allergies. It's not really been diagnosed. They checked my breathing and they're like, it's fine. You actually do really well. So like, I don't know if it's just allergies, but I had an inhaler. It was like, I'm struggling to breathe. I tried using it. I'm like, I forgot my chest is just constricted. I can't breathe
Right,
more
like-
because I physically can't.
Right.
And that kind of makes you panic a little bit if you like feel like you need to breathe and you just
Right.
can't, and then you have something that you fall back on when you're really struggling and that doesn't do anything. So
Right,
like
right.
that the panic does not help either. But like if you just don't panic, you're fine.
Right.
That's all it is.
Right.
Just don't panic. It happens. So no, it was miserable for me because it was that, and then I went
So
into the
terrible.
office and I smell really bad, and I know I smell really bad.
Well,
and
there's
I feel bad.
everyone they
I
see
know.
is gonna smell bad after a week of
But,
no
like,
showering.
My hair was like so greasy and
Oh
it
my
was like
God.
clumped together,
Oh my
and
God.
then they're like, yeah, you could go home and shower, and I was like,
And-
I think I took like a 2-hour shower
Oh my
where
God,
it was
that-
like,
that is the best shower
yeah.
I've ever taken in my life.
yeah, where it was like so you couldn't be with your chest in front of the spray, so you
Yes.
had to have your back to the spray and make sure that this didn't really get wet unless you're like dripping a water
you
on.
could, like, let it run over
So
you.
like sitting there, like literally sitting on the floor of the shower, letting it just cascade. And I'm like, dear God, please don't make me have to go an entire week without showering on the hottest day of the year.
Right.
Hottest week of the year.
Never again let this happen to me.
No, that was miserable. But the actual physical healing process was like, they gave me really strong drugs for the pain, but I didn't use any of them.
I didn't use them either. I
and
just
they
used Tylenol.
And they say more often than not, people don't end up using them.
Yeah,
It's
because-
not painful. It's,
Yeah, they're like, don't use it unless you really, really need it, because it'll make you constipated.
yeah.
Because then they also prescribe you like a laxative in case you use the pills.
I didn't get a laxative.
Really? Yeah, they gave me one.
Well,
That's
someone.
They probably just
got good
assumed that no
treatment.
one is going to use them.
Yeah.
So, what was it like seeing your chest for the first time once you got to take the bandages off?
So that was strange because I was sitting in a chair and like you're like kind of
Yeah,
back
you're,
like this,
reclined like this.
and then they're like you can barely move because you're like so conditioned not to move. So like you try going like this, and
Right.
you can't see anything.
Right.
So they give you a mirror, and she just like holds it and presents it, and it's like I was told to not freak out when my nipples look like burnt pepperonis.
You don't.
They don't. I mean, they're not jet black or anything like that.
No.
They're not severely burnt. They're a slightly overcooked pepperoni, is what I would say. Like they're not good, but like you could see that there was blood coming into it. That
Right.
if it was jet
It was
black,
cut
you know
off
that
and put
something's
back
a
on.
problem.
It's gonna look a little rough.
Yeah. And like the incisions themselves, they.
You have all the dairy strips.
You
on
could
them.
you could see all the strips of you could see the marker still on your skin, and
Right.
with me being so warm, it like bled everywhere
Oh my
because it
God.
sweat so
You
much.
sweat.
So I really had to sit there rubbing it off, which rubbing alcohol gets it off.
Yeah.
So like just don't put it close to your incisions and rub it off, and you're fine. I think it took like a week before it was like mostly gone. But like there was really no pain with it. It was just like, here's what your chest looks like, and it's weird because it's mostly numb.
Right.
It's still mostly numb,
Right.
so you just kind of like washing it was the weird thing, but like the actual seeing it,
Did you have
do
like
look
an
like
emotional
Frankenstein.
moment, or were you just like, oh, okay?
I felt queasy.
Yeah.
I felt very. I do like
I didn't
injuries
really have
very well,
an
but like
extreme emotional reaction either.
I
Like,
didn't either.
Michelle was with me and she was videoing, and she was
Yeah.
crying, videoing me.
yeah,
I mean,
Yeah.
I was like, wow. But it also was like, okay, yeah, this is what it's supposed to look like. So
Yeah.
it's like, it
I
wasn't
mean-
like that big of a deal to me almost. It was like, okay.
yeah. It felt like that for me too, where it was
Yeah.
like cool. That there was a lot of build up for it, and it's like then once you hit it, you're basically at like that flat line. It doesn't like go up and then go down. It's just like if it's like how it should be,
Yeah,
and
you're
you're
like, oh.
emotionally at the right spot, then you hit that like. You finally hit the peak at the top of the cliff, and you're just at the safety. You're
Yeah,
not going
you're-
down. You're
right,
just
you're
like
just like,
there, and you are now on land.
yeah.
Like it's a lot of like the struggle to get up there, and there's a lot of things trying to knock you down, and rocks falling on top of you, and
Right,
things that are
right,
trying to
right.
keep you back down. And once you're at the top, you're at the top. It's fine. Like safety's there.
Right.
So that's what I would do. My metaphor, analogy, symbolism.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Should we reveal our scars?
Did we have anything else that we
I
wanted
think
to
we
mention?
covered a pretty good amount of stuff.
So, well, what was your healing like?
Well, my healing, yeah, I mean, the same kind of thing. The first week, it was just, like, uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I obviously had my surgery in November, so I didn't have to worry about sweating. That sounds terrible.
A little bit.
But yeah, after that, it's pretty easy. They give you the binder. You're, like, not supposed to pick up anything heavy for 6 weeks. That's the hardest part, because you feel pretty
Yeah.
fine. And you're like, oh, I'm not. And then you're like, I can't reach things.
Yeah.
And
Like
I can't pick things out.
being-
But other than that, it's like so it's almost like too easy where you're like gonna like push it, which is I
Yeah.
think what happened. Like my scars have stretched out a lot, like in the middle here, because I think I just like started picking up too heavy things too early.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
I had a time at one point, so both of my shoulders are pretty weak because I've injured both of them
Yeah.
working usually. So I hit a point where, like, because I haven't been working out for so long, my shoulder kind of fell out of socket, which the only way to do it is to lift your arm, pop it back in.
But you couldn't.
I can't lift my arms over my head, so I had to go really slow.
What's your
'cause
range of motion right now?
I can do everything.
You can do everything.
I can do everything.
Normal.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
took me probably 3 months before I was like.
Oh, no,
Full
I was within the first 6 weeks.
Oh wow.
Because
I think for a while I was like.
that's a lie. It was 7 to 8 weeks because
Yeah.
the 6 weeks was before you could really start doing anything before the restrictions were up. So you shouldn't even be. So if I were to do that 6 weeks, I was doing something wrong.
Yeah.
But I immediately started working out the day that I could at very light things of like I need to start stretching. I need to start doing all of that stuff.
Walking.
I
definitely
I
felt
walking
exhausted
throughout.
if I like did too much because your body is healing, even though it doesn't feel like you're doing a lot. Like I remember, it was probably like a week after I had surgery, I went to this event with Michelle, and I was so exhausted when we came home. I was like, oh my god.
One of the
I thought I was feeling fine, but it's like, it's just a lot to get up and do stuff, and then you're like, oh, I forgot my body's trying to like heal something.
Yeah. I was very lucky that I saw my mom before, like a weekend before surgery.
Yeah.
And she's an OR nurse. She deals with this constantly. So she knows a lot about the healing things, and she constantly was checking up on me. Like, she never gets worried for me, really, because she's like, he can take care of himself. But like, this is the first time I've ever had surgery. So she was like, she even said she was a massive bitch to everyone at work, because she was so stressed out for me.
Oh my gosh.
And so she was like, I'm calling to make sure you're okay. Or I even just sent a text and was like, want to make sure that you're, you're back at the house like you should be, that, you're doing okay. You're going to be exhausted, so text me when you can. Just a single letter and I'll know that you're okay.
Right.
So I did that. She came over to check out to see how things were looking and everything. So she saw some of the progression for it. But beforehand, she had said that, like the next day after surgery or 2 days after surgery, go for walks. Go for as long of walks as possible. Like, keep yourself moving, keep the blood flow going, because if you're going to do that, you're going to, heal faster, because your body's going to get the blood moving, and you're going to get rid of some of the bad things.
I think they did recommend like doing short walks. I feel like
short walks. Right. We did a long walk for probably about like 2 miles. At one point, it was nighttime, so it was like cold.
Not so hot.
Yeah,
You're
so
like,
that was when we decided to do it. It was vaguely sprinkling, so it wasn't wet, which you're not supposed to get your bandages wet. So like I had a sweatshirt on just in case, and was like letting the cool air and like the slight bits of water like collect on my face and everything.
So I'm gonna take a shower.
Yeah, well, but I can't. It's as close to the shower I could have had.
Right.
But I hit a point halfway through the walk, like the time that we turned back around, where I was like,
we walked too far.
Cannot walk anymore. And they're like, do you want to stop? And I'm like, if I stop, I'm stopping. Like, I will not be able to continue. So I have to keep my legs going.
Yikes.
And like there's a nerd alert moment in D&D. If you get level like 4 exhaustion or something, you move at like half speed.
So you're right.
And I was like, I will never ever again say I'm not that exhausted that I move at half speed, because that's
Here
dumb.
I am literally moving at half speed.
And I was like, dear God, no. So like you legitimately just, if you do push yourself too far, you are at that limit, and you will suffer for a bit. And I didn't walk the next day after because I was so exhausted. But like, small things to begin with. Know what your limits are. I mean, push the limit if you know that you'll be able to get home safely. Right. And then know that that's your limit, and not to exceed that until you really work your way up. Yeah. It's a matter of making sure that you don't strain yourself.
I think like 3 weeks post-op, I started going to work with Eric because I was so bored, and I would just like. I would like do the measurements, like, and I didn't carry anything heavy, but I just wanted to like be out of the house, so I would just like be there, and I'd sit there and wait for it, and I'd take some measurements and write notes and stuff, because I couldn't do anything else.
Right. I had an office job, so I was basically kind of like.
How soon did you go back to work?
A week and a half after surgery. I didn't have a full 2 weeks.
That's
I
so
was
annoying,
told that they needed me as much as possible, because my next day back was the day after the 4th of July. Technically speaking, the next day, because it was a Sunday. Yeah. So you have the Monday off. So like I was not a full 2 weeks.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. But I sat in a chair for 8 hours in the day. So it wasn't heavy lifting. It was not constantly moving. So it was not the worst. But I did have time, so I had to take breaks from sitting to lay down.
Right.
So
that's frustrating.
Yeah.
Not surprising though, based on your employer.
Happens, but.
I feel like we did a good
Yeah.
Covered it all.
Yeah, so the ups and downs of the weather was that I was sweaty as all hell, and you would get chills and you wouldn't be able to feel the nipples.
Right, it's so weird to get chills and not feel your nipples anymore.
The weirdest thing that I've felt so far is that, so if I went running back in the day, this might just be a hereditary thing, I don't know, but my dad would do like the running, and if he does running for a long time, he, like his nipples would chafe. I had a similar problem
Charlie's
as well.
here.
So whenever that happened for me, I'd get like that stinging pain, but like I still have that sometimes. And I'll
It's
feel
like
it like
over here.
down here,
Yes.
and my
I'll
nipples
feel
are like
it where
over
my
here.
nipple used to be.
Yeah,
Like down
yeah.
here.
Like I could easily just be like, "This is where it used to be. I
Yeah.
know it's exactly where it used to be." And
Yeah,
then
me
like
too.
I'd like be scratching something within the first couple of weeks after taking the binder off, and be like, "Oh, just scratch. That's my new nipple." Like that is now the new placement of it.
Right.
So don't do
Yeah,
that.
the nerves are so funny.
You like your head there? Okay.
Charlie's
And the
here to
special
join.
guest.
Alright, I'm going to reveal my scar. You can't really see them anymore because
Someone got tattoos.
you can see the very edges.
Yeah. Not in
Of
this
them.
sunlight.
And I'm almost at 4 years.
Yeah.
So, things have evened out quite a bit.
Yeah, it's kind of probably hard to see on camera, especially with your pasty skin and sunlight.
I know.
But like,
it's so whiting out right there.
it does look like a darker-ish scar just up to the points behind the tattoos, but
Yeah.
like it's not that noticeable.
What was most red was like right here
Yes.
for me. That's
Yes.
why I got the tattoo because I didn't like it.
Do you have a lot of like scars around your nipple as well, or just like?
Yeah, I mean you can see like the ring around them.
Yeah, but a
But-
nipple is a nipple. It's a ring around it anyway.
Right. My nipples were pretty good most of the time.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, chest reveal for me.
Chest reveal for you.
I
Let's
don't
see it.
have tattoos on my chest,
Well, it's
so
too
I'm
early
not
to get
as.
a tattoo.
I do have my shirt tucked in like a weirdo though, so
Like
like
a dad.
like a dad. No, because it's the style. It feels weird taking a shirt off.
I know, right?
Especially like
Look
this,
at
but
that.
like, excuse the stomach.
Sorry, you're so
Like,
white. You're so white too.
I am so white.
But you look great.
But yeah, like if I go
Charlie's
like this,
looking at you.
isn't it great? But yeah,
Yeah,
like
it's
even
so
on the
good.
screen, it looks a lot lighter than it is in person. But
Your
like,
scars are
yeah.
shorter. Mine like go all
Yeah.
the way to here.
Yeah, my scars only stop at about like the very beginning of the armpit, so like
Yeah.
an inch after where like the nipple is, 2 inches technically,
Yeah.
off where the nipple is, but it's not
Huh.
like the
Yeah,
middle.
I
It's
feel like
here.
mine are longer.
They
Mine
might might be. Yeah, yours do go
Mine
up
go
to
like
here.
up into the armpit almost.
You were also a little bit bigger. than
Yeah,
I
so
was. So
yours
it might
only go to
have
like
looks
here.
that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah, so I've got that. You can see the ring a little bit around the nipple still
Yeah,
because
it
those are
definitely
healing.
it fades.
Yeah,
I mean,
that
you're
was
only
one of the things
3
that was.
months.
I'm not
You look
even-
exactly
yeah.
like I did at 3 months. Like,
Yeah, like and you feel
I don't know if
this.
I have a
It's very
picture.
you can feel that it's raised, but it's
Yeah, mine are
flat,
flat
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can definitely feel the scar tissue just all around.
Oh
all
gosh.
of this
it's
is
like
completely
it's like
numb.
hard.
Yeah.
Too, like around
Yes.
the incisions are hard. I'm trying
But-
to see if I have a picture from like the same time frame that you're at right now.
Yeah, now that it's healed enough, I can do the chest paddings, and it's not a problem. Because before I tried doing it, it would be like, ouch, bad idea. So, yeah, that's what it looks like. Everything's healing pretty well. Within the first, I think it was 3 days
Yeah,
of
here's
the...
mine at like the same time.
Oh, yeah.
This was me the same time as like Finn is healing. I don't know if it's gonna focus, but
And you do see that there's
same amount of red.
You
and
do
yeah,
have a closer chest area, too.
yeah, they're very
like,
close
yours-
together in the middle too.
Yours really, like, dipped
Yeah,
in yours.
they
Mine's
went,
very, like, flat
Mine
across.
was bigger than you, so
I know. So,
yeah, that's so interesting.
It's also it feels very weird because like it's like a centimeter between the scar and the actual nipple.
Yeah.
And it's like, is that the right spot?
Right,
But I
yeah.
guess it is. Like
Yeah, same with mine.
it's a peck, so it's weird.
That's why I cut the
yeah.
strips in half too, because I felt like I was gonna be like covering my nipple with them. Those
That's-
strips that they give you.
That's what I did too because I
Yeah.
cut them in half and then put them across.
Yeah.
Um,
No, it looks great.
Yeah, it's getting there. The healing is definitely in progress.
Oh yeah, I mean.
But yeah, like
he
this
says
is really
you
good.
won't see like your true results until like a year post-op,
Yeah,
and even then, they'll still fade.
yeah, and I
It
mean
won't
like
be as red. So
even just looking at the nipples and thinking like 3 days after the like they put it wasn't cotton swabs, but they were like little
these little
circular
balls.
things that they
Yeah.
stuck on there that were like stitched on,
like
and that was
whole.
part of the foam that kept everything compressed, and you didn't want to
Yeah.
move it because releasing it would move all of that around.
Yeah.
So having that removed and seeing that it was like very red, very almost brown in spaces because of where blood had gotten through
Yeah.
and everything. Within 3 days, you could see that it was starting to become that pink color.
A nipple again.
Yeah, so like as soon as I started to see that, I was like, "Oh, excellent! The blood flow's coming back,
Yeah.
and I know that everything's okay." So like, that
Yeah, I
is
mean, you
a good
can
side.
see the scar around them is just white now.
Yes.
Like yours is still red.
I have.
I would say the redness lasted like almost a year.
You can see spots like it used to be much more red. Like this right here
Yeah.
used to be the same color as where this is, but
Yeah.
like when I started using, I'm also using silicone for mine. The silicone made this color happen within the first like 5 days of using
Wow.
it. But because I
not-
sleep weird,
I did
it does not
use
do
them
it.
very consistently.
I keep forgetting. I'm a diligent person when it comes to medication where like I
It's
can take
hard
it
with them
every
because-
single day consistently and
Yeah.
every single time of day, but putting the silicone on, I'll be like, leave it in the bathroom so that way when I go to the bathroom at the end of the night, I'll put it on and then I'll be like, I'll look at it and be like, oh, I'll go to the bathroom again later in the night, and then I don't. And then I'm like,
Right.
well, I guess I'll just wear it when I go to work
Whoops.
because I have a job that allows me to do that. But if I
Right.
didn't, that would really suck. So,
Yeah,
but
well,
yeah,
you look
that's what it
great.
looks like.
Yeah.
It's getting there. Because now I can actually move my arms over my head.
Right, it took so
And
long to
that
do that.
that's such a free feeling. Like
Right.
to just be able to move after this is like
right,
excellent.
you don't realize how much
Yeah.
you take that for granted.
Yeah, and it was something that I didn't even think about because it was like you won't be able to lift this much. Great, I
Right.
know that. Like, duh.
Right.
But
then
even
it
just being
lasts
like
so much longer.
being
than
like
you think.
this was terrible. Sneezing.
Oh my god, yes.
Sneezing was I felt like I was dying every time that I felt the tickle in my nose. I'm like, I'm going to legitimately
it's like,
die.
ah.
Like, yeah, it goes nowhere. I'd sneeze and I'd sit there for like half a minute, almost crying, like, ow, why does
Right.
my body have functions? So yeah,
Yeah.
that was probably sneezing was the most painful thing about it. It
Right.
seems just across the board, besides the binder
Yeah.
cupping this and then
It's
like
so
rubbing here.
uncomfortable. And for me, like my incision, this one was longer up, so like one of my incisions was like on the edge
Yeah.
of the binder, and it was like pressing into this one.
Yeah, I was
I was
very
like,
lucky that mine did not do that.
Yeah.
I did have like a little bump here
Yeah.
at one point for a
Yeah,
while,
I
which
did
is why
too.
it's so dark. But
Yeah.
that
That's
seems
why
like
it's so stretched out right here.
Yeah. I don't remember why that happens, but that's a very common thing to
Yeah.
happen. So it's
Yeah.
not like it's,
Yeah.
bad.
And it does like flatten out eventually.
Yeah.
I think it's just like this, like a stitch.
Yeah.
Like the last stitch where they kind of tie it off, I think.
Yeah, because that's where mine was. I think I put a Band-Aid next to it to because the silicone was there, and then I pulled the silicone off, and it kind of like pulled some of the skin too, and everything kind of leaked out. So like was
Right.
like I guess I can't put the silicone there, so I just put another Band-Aid over it to make sure that didn't touch the exposed skin because you can't have the silicone on the open wounds.
Yeah.
So just making sure that didn't happen while I let the rest of it heal, and then once that healed, started doing that again.
Yeah.
Not the biggest deal. You'd want to talk to your doctor about it, but like
Right.
I didn't.
Oh well.
I talked to my mom about it. She's a doctor. It's almost good enough. So
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing all of your experiences.
yeah, thanks for the show and tell.
And you're so welcome for sending you this recommendation.
Yes, went to the same doctor, and yeah,
I
the
recommend
COVID
him
part
to
was
everyone.
terrible, but-
Anyone I see
yeah.
talking about wanting top surgery, I'm like, you must go to Dr. Bartlett in Brookline, Mass.
Yeah.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
So I recommend him to everyone.
I highly
He's-
recommend him too, because
Yeah.
even the procedures during COVID, he was very like his entire staff was very kind about everything.
Yeah,
They
that's awesome.
constantly called and made sure that I had everything all set, that I didn't have any questions, and I would ask stupid questions like I heavily drink caffeine, and so I drink a lot of coffee. So I kind of started getting to the point in my life where I'm like, well, I don't want to have as much coffee, so I'm going to switch to tea. But you have to be careful about what sort of supplements you're taking before surgery, so I wasn't able to drink tea 2 weeks before surgery. So small things
did
like
not know
that.
that.
Yeah. And so then I had to ask afterwards to see if it was okay for me to start doing it, which is around the time that you can start your normal medications and everything. So it's not that long. But yeah,
Awesome.
a little
All right.
chunky.
Thanks for watching this. If you watched all of it, you're the best.
It was long.
It was long, but there's a lot to talk about. So
If you have other questions for
yeah,
things, you
leave
can
us
always
more
just hit us up
questions.
and-
We'll do it again if we get enough more questions. So
Not even that.
we
but
made these up ourselves because we're like, I don't know
There
what to
were-
talk about. So
There weren't really any questions. It was
yeah,
just
no one
talking
asked
about
us
our
questions. We
different
just,
experiences.
Yeah, but if people have specific questions, definitely we can answer them. We both have been there. So
Yeah, they were very good about staying safe with the whole quarantine and COVID thing. I
Yeah.
had to show that I was vaccinated because the vaccine
Right.
came out a little bit before. I had to make sure that I was like a couple weeks before having
Yeah.
it, so that way if I did show symptoms after getting it, that it wouldn't conflict with that. But like,
yeah, well, because I was
They were
supposed to
good.
go with you.
Yeah.
But whoever was bringing you had to also quarantine for 2 weeks, and I couldn't do that.
which they didn't by the time that happened, but we had already planned
Yeah, we had
not
already
to at that
planned
point.
not to. But
Yeah,
so I was sad that I couldn't be the one to bring you. But
yeah, that's okay.
here we are now.
Yeah, it's about time because this is the first day that we've seen each other since
Surgery.
Yeah, since before surgery.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
looks
that's
great. It looks great.
yeah,
I'm so happy for you.
yeah. I'm really happy about this too. He's a very fantastic doctor.
He's
I would
wonderful.
recommend him.
Highly recommend. Highly
Yeah.
recommend. So, all right. Well, thanks for watching this. What do I always say at the end of these? I haven't made a video in so long.
I don't know.
Hope you all are having a good week, and
Like and
I'll talk to you
subscribe.
next time. I don't say like and subscribe. I don't do that.